The 1980s, Mexico. A time and place where tradition met the burgeoning tides of change. A land of vibrant color and deep shadow, where the old ways clashed with the new. Down dusty roads, under the harsh sun, something venomous was stirring. A force that would change the landscape forever. Figures moved in the periphery, speaking in hushed tones. Their whispers carried the weight of impending doom. The air felt thick with unspoken deals and the scent of contraband. Every corner seemed to hide a secret. This was the dawn of a new kind of empire built on powder and blood. An empire that thrived in the shadows. Dimly lit cantinas buzzed with whispers of alliances and betrayals. Every conversation a potential turning point. Money changed hands, buying silence, loyalty, and lives. The currency of corruption flowed freely. Outside the streets seemed normal, but beneath a dark current flowed. An underworld that few dared to acknowledge. Contraband moved like a ghost through the night, always north, invisible yet omnipresent. The routes were invisible lines on a map of corruption. Each line a lifeline for the burgeoning empire. Each crossing a victory, each kilo a step towards power. The stakes were high and the rewards even higher. The old ways were dying, replaced by a new predator with vision. A new order was emerging. Authorities looked the other way or took their cut. Corruption was the grease that kept the machine running. The lines blurred between cop and criminal, politician and trafficker. The system was a web of deceit. The system was corroded, ripe for the taking. A fertile ground for the seeds of a dark empire. The whispers of a new order grew louder, a federation of evil. Their plans were meticulous, their resolve unyielding. The stage was set, the players moving into position. A deadly game was about to unfold. Mexico was about to bleed for decades to come. The dawn of this dark empire would cast a long shadow. His name was Miguel Ángel Félix Gallardo, El Padrino, the Godfather. He was a man who would change the face of organized crime in Mexico forever. He wasn't your typical bandito, he was quiet, observant, a businessman. Unlike the loud and brash criminals of his time, Gallardo operated with a level of sophistication that was unprecedented. He wore tailored suits, spoke softly, but his eyes held a chilling intelligence. His demeanor was calm, almost serene, but beneath that exterior was a mind always calculating, always planning. A former Sinaloan state judicial police officer, he knew the system. He understood its intricacies, its strengths, and most importantly, its weaknesses. He exploited its weaknesses, his knowledge becoming his sharpest weapon. This insider knowledge allowed him to navigate the treacherous waters of law enforcement and corruption with ease. Born in Bella Vista, Sinaloa, he saw poverty, corruption, and chaos. These early experiences shaped his worldview, instilling in him a desire to rise above his circumstances. He envisioned something grander, terrifyingly organized. He dreamed of an empire that would bring order to the chaos, a criminal enterprise that would operate with the efficiency of a multinational corporation. He didn't just want a piece of the pie, he wanted the entire bakery. His ambitions knew no bounds, and he was willing to do whatever it took to achieve them. His rise was meteoric yet methodical, every move calculated. He was a master strategist, always thinking several steps ahead of his rivals and the authorities. He understood power, not just of the gun, but of connections and money. He knew that true power lay in the ability to influence and control, rather than merely intimidate. Starting as a bodyguard for the governor of Sinaloa, he learned the game. This position gave him access to the corridors of power, and the opportunity to build a network of influential contacts. Félix Gallardo saw himself as a unifier, a CEO of crime. He believed that by bringing together the various factions, he could create a more efficient and profitable organization. He would bring disparate smuggling operations under one umbrella, the Guadalajara Cartel. This was a revolutionary idea, transforming the fragmented world of drug trafficking into a cohesive and powerful entity, a revolutionary concept, a holding company for drug traffickers. This structure allowed for greater control, coordination, and ultimately, greater profits. He controlled supply lines, dictated terms, and became indispensable. His influence extended from the coca fields of Colombia to the streets of American cities. The man who connected Colombian cocaine producers with the American market. His vision and leadership turned the Guadalajara Cartel into a dominant force in the global drug trade. The Guadalajara Cartel, sounding almost legitimate, was anything but. It was a sophisticated criminal enterprise that would change the face of drug trafficking forever. Félix Gallardo was its architect, its visionary. A man with a plan, he saw opportunities where others saw chaos. He brought together big players like Rafael Caro Quintero and Don Nato. These were men with power, influence, and their own territories. Men with their own territories and armies who distrusted each other. Yet, Gallardo managed to unite them under a common goal. He made them see the immense profits through cooperation. By working together, they could dominate the drug trade. He didn't just consolidate power, he modernized the trade. Gallardo introduced new methods and technologies to streamline operations, establishing sophisticated smuggling routes by land, air, and sea. These routes were meticulously planned and executed. He invested in better planes, communication, and intelligence. This investment paid off, making the cartel more efficient and harder to catch, running it like a Fortune 500 company with divisions and managers. Each division had its own responsibilities from production to distribution. The product flowed north, cocaine, heroin, marijuana, cash flowed south. This cycle of drugs and money fueled the cartel's growth. His genius lay in organization and connections, cultivating politicians and police. These relationships provided a layer of protection. He created a system of protection, a shield of impunity. This allowed the cartel to operate with relative freedom. The plaza system, territories controlled by individual capos, all answered to him. This hierarchical structure ensured order and loyalty. The Colombians had the product but needed a reliable way into the U.S. Gallardo provided the perfect solution. Félix Gallardo offered them Mexico, a vast, porous border. This border was the gateway to the lucrative U.S. market. He took a cut of the product, becoming a partner, not just a mule. This partnership was mutually beneficial and highly profitable. This masterstroke catapulted him and his cartel into international crime. The Guadalajara Cartel became a force to be reckoned with on the global stage. The Guadalajara Cartel didn't ask politely, it demanded, plata o plomo, silver or lead, cooperate and get rich, resist and die. This was how Félix Gallardo maintained control, through bribery and terror. Fear kept enemies in check and subordinates obedient. Corruption was the lifeblood of his empire, seeping into every corner of society. Judges, prosecutors, mayors, governors, no one was immune. He bought institutions, hollowing them out from within. Disappearances and unsolved murders became common. His enforcers were brutal, carrying out orders without question. Torture was a tactic to extract information and send messages. Bodies were dumped in public, a gruesome warning to others. The violence was calculated, strategic, designed to instill fear. Plaza bosses like Amado Carrillo Fuentes and El Chapo Guzman deferred to El Padrino. He was the mediator, the final arbiter, ensuring the product kept flowing. A line crossed in blood, the Camarena affair. Enrique Kiki Camarena, DEA agent, was relentless. He understood the Guadalajara Cartel's sophistication and devastating impact. He got too close, gathering too much intelligence. February 7, 1985, Guadalajara Camarena was abducted in broad daylight. Taken to a house owned by Quintero, he was tortured for days. They wanted to know what he knew, who he knew. The murder of a U.S. federal agent on foreign soil was a monumental miscalculation. The American government reacted with fury, launching Operation Leyenda. The pressure on the Mexican government was immense. The cozy relationship between the cartel and officials was shattered. Félix Gallardo knew this was bad. The Camarena affair exposed the cartel's barbarity. The killing sealed the fate of the Guadalajara Cartel, putting El Padrino in the crosshairs. Echoes in the dust, hotspots and headlines, Culiacan, Guadalajara, Tijuana, these were the battlegrounds. The cartel's presence was palpable. Life lived on a knife's edge. Newspapers screamed headlines of cartel violence and bodies found. The media painted a grim picture of a nation under siege. Some journalists paid the ultimate price for reporting the truth. Crime scenes became grim tableaux, each victim a symbol of the cartel's reach. The official response was often a charade, arrests made, but the big fish swam free. The war on drugs felt like a phantom war, while real power consolidated in men like Félix Gallardo. The empire crumbles, the inevitable fall. The murder of Kiki Camarena lit a fire under American law enforcement. Operation Leyenda was a vow to bring every person involved to justice. The walls began to close in on Félix Gallardo and his associates. Rafael Caro Quintero was caught, Don Nato arrested, the pillars were falling. Félix Gallardo went underground, but the net tightened. His allies grew nervous, the Federation began to splinter. April 8, 1989, Guadalajara Félix Gallardo was arrested quietly. The reign of El Padrino was over, but the beast he created was not dead. Chains and whispers, a legacy forged in violence. Behind bars, Félix Gallardo was not entirely powerless. He tried to maintain control over his fragmenting empire, but the forces of ambition and betrayal were too strong. The Guadalajara Cartel shattered, replaced by warring factions. His arrest hadn't brought peace, it had unleashed war. His legacy was not one of order, but of chaos. The new generation of narcos learned from his successes and mistakes. The plaza system became a patchwork of fiefdoms, defended with brutal force. The name Félix Gallardo became a dark legend, a cautionary tale. He had built an empire, ruled like a king and fallen, but the structures he put in place endured, foundations for the next generation of cartels. The unending war statistics of a brutal inheritance. After Félix Gallardo's arrest, the violence metastasized. The splintered cartels fought for territory, roots, and power. The body count climbed, Mexico became a charnel house. The flow of drugs north continued, the demand insatiable. The war on drugs seemed like a tragic failure. The cartels grew stronger, more adaptable, more violent. Entire regions fell under de facto cartel control. The government waged war, but the enemy was elusive. The cartels armed themselves with military-grade weaponry. The fabric of society frayed, fear a constant companion. Félix Gallardo's system led to decentralized carnage. By eliminating him, authorities created a power vacuum. A vacuum filled by a new breed of hyper-violent narco-traffickers. Ghosts of Culiacan, the lingering shadow. The sun beats down on Culiacan. Life goes on, but the ghosts are everywhere. The ghost of Félix Gallardo, his influence lingers. It's in the narco corridos, romanticizing violence and easy money. The legend endures, dark and potent. The systemic corruption he perfected still eats at institutions. The web of complicity he wove frustrates reform. The shadow he cast is long, a permanent stain. The cartels he spawned continue their bloody business. The faces change, the names change, but the game remains the same. A deadly game of power, greed, and survival. The story of Miguel Ángel Félix Gallardo is a haunting symphony of ambition, power, and ruin. He built an empire, changed organized crime, and unleashed a maelstrom of violence. The silence of the night in places like Sinaloa is never truly silent, punctuated by sirens, unspoken fears, and the lingering presence of El Padrino.